Hello again. Today we're going to do a lesson on 5-2, the geometric proof. We are going to learn how to prove a conjecture by two different methods, one being using a paragraph proof and second using the two-column proof. The first thing I want to do today is look at the vocabulary that will be covered in lesson 5-2. Your first vocabulary term is inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is the process of making a conjecture after observing several examples. For example, if you performed a science experiment, you could conclude that only 80% of tomato seeds would grow into plants. Your second vocabulary term is deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning uses facts, rules, definition, or laws to make conjectures for given situations. An example of deductive reasoning would be that all triangles have three sides and three angles. If you have a figure with three sides and three angles, it must be a triangle. Next, we're going to take a look at proofs, is what we'll be covering in today's lesson. A proof is a logical argument where each statement is justified by a reason. There are two kinds of proofs, an informal proof and a formal proof. An informal proof is one that's done through paragraph form. A formal proof is one that's figured out using two columns. Lastly, we're going to talk about theorems. Theorems can be used as a reason to justify statements in other proofs. Okay, let's turn your workbooks to page 380. Please address the key concept at the top of the page, the proof process. There are 5 steps in the process. Step 1 is to list given information or what you know. If possible, you can draw a diagram to illustrate this information. Step 2 is to state what is to be proven. Step 3, create a deductive argument by forming a logical chain of statements, linking the given information to what you are trying to prove. Step 4, justify each statement with a reason. Reasons include definitions, algebraic properties, and theorems. Lastly, state what it is you have proven. First, we're going to cover example number 1 on the bottom of page 380. The diamondback rattlesnake has a diamond pattern on its back. An enlargement of the skin is shown. If the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 4, write a paragraph proof to show that the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3. First, we know that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 4 because that information is given to us. Second, we need to prove that the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3. We can do this by knowing that the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 1 because they are vertical angles by definition. Since the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 4, the measure of angle 2 also has to equal the measure of angle 4 by substitution. The measure of angle 4 equals the measure of angle 3 because they are vertical angles. Since the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 4, then the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3 also by substitution. Therefore, the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3. If you need to, stop the video, rewind, and look at these steps again. Next, for example 2, we're going to write a two-column proof or a formal proof to show that if two angles are vertical angles, then they have the same measure. We already know that vertical angles are congruent, but we're going to prove why they have the same measure. We are given that lines M and N intersect, and that angles 1 and 3 are vertical angles. We are going to prove that the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 3. Our first step is to divide our paper into two columns. On the left, we have our statements, and on the right, we have our reasons. We know that lines M and N intersect, and angles 1 and 3 are vertical angles. The reason is that information is given. Step 2, angles 1 and 2 are a linear pair. Angles 3 and 2 are also a linear pair by the definition of a linear pair. They make a straight line together. Step 3, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180 degrees, as does the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2, by definition of supplementary angles. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. Step 4, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2 by substitution. Step 5, therefore, if we subtract the measure of angle 2 from both sides of the equation, we are left with the measure of angle 1 equaling the measure of angle 3. we have proven our statement. For class tomorrow, I would like you to describe the differences between a paragraph proof, which is an informal proof, and a 2-column proof, otherwise known as a formal proof. Also, please complete the 2 got it's. There's one at the top of page 381, and the second one is at the top of page 382. We'll be going over these in class tomorrow, as well as answering any additional questions that you might have.